What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Success Playbook Live. I am your host, Corey Hastings. We'll be coming to you live every other Tuesday night from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern directly on this channel. If you are new here tonight, go ahead and push that subscribe button. And obviously, thank you so much for being here. Tonight is episode 9, and this show is about real conversations around business, mindset, leadership, and what it actually takes to build something meaningful. Tonight will be 60 minutes filled with practical insight from real experience, but also live Q&A inside the chat. So go ahead and load up all of your questions so we can get to as much as possible over the next hour. If you're getting real value from these conversations, make sure you like the stream, subscribe to the channel, and stay locked in because we have so much more content coming over the next several weeks and months. For those of you guys joining for the first time, I appreciate you joining us tonight. Like I said, my name is Corey Hastings. I'm a real estate broker for Christie's International Real Estate, First Coast here in Jacksonville, Florida. And over the last several years, I've led our luxury real estate brokerage over to accomplishing amazing things. And this platform is just an extension of that, focusing on helping others learn from my mistakes, but also my successes. Whether it's a business-related question, real estate, personal growth, or just your career overall, I want to help in any way I possibly can to have you become as successful as possible, as fast as possible. And that's what tonight is going to be all about. So let's go ahead and get started. As we always do, please go ahead and let me know where you guys are watching from, your city and state. I absolutely always love to see where you guys are coming from. As always, I am coming to you live from Jacksonville Beach, Florida, in the headquarters of our office of Christie's International Real Estate First Coast. And before we get to live Q&A, because I know there's a bunch of questions inside the chat already, I want to kind of give you guys an update on the things that we've been working on. So we released the podcast with my brother, Scotty Hastings, about 5 or 6 days ago. A lot of you guys have loved it, hearing his story from a wounded combat veteran to singing on Broadway to now becoming, a singer-songwriter who is assigned to a label in Nashville, singing at the Grand Ole Opry. And a lot of you guys have really enjoyed the whole entire interview. If you have not seen that yet, it is live on my YouTube channel that you guys are on now. Go over to videos and you'll be able to see it. And also, if you have not seen the behind the scenes of him, where we went through the Grand Ole Opry, we went through recording studios, we went through a bunch of different things with him, definitely check that out because a lot of you guys have really enjoyed that as well. Me personally, I never knew how much went into making music until obviously I sat down with him and interviewed him. But it's been an outpouring of support, so we really appreciate everybody who's watched and tapped in and obviously answered questions or asked questions and so much more. So let's go ahead and get to some first questions in here tonight. Let me know where you guys are watching from. I see Nashville, I see Cincinnati, I see Pittsburgh in the chat. Always great to see you guys as always. Jacksonville, great to see you as well. First question, leadoff hitter tonight. How has financial literacy changed the way you think about strategy, growth, and risk? Well, it's important that we talk about financial literacy, right? Because it's imperative as a business owner that you have financial literacy. The hard part about financial literacy is unless you got an MBA and you've ran businesses before or been in ownership or been in management or whatever else, how are you supposed to learn financial literacy, whenever you don't go and do those things or if you've never done it before, right? How do you know what it's like to run a profit and loss statement? How do you know what cost of goods sold are? How do you know what client acquisition costs are? And all of these things are really, really important as we're talking about entrepreneurship and owning a business and all of this. So the more that you can have, or the better insight, but also knowledge you can have about financial literacy, the more successful you're always going to be. Because it's not just about how do I make money, but it's also very, very important. How much does it cost me to make money, right? How much does it cost me to get new clients? How much does it cost me to get new supplies? How much does it cost me for my overhead, my operating costs, my employee costs? All of these things go into running a business because at the end of the day, we're all here to run a business to make money, right? So the question is, how has it changed the way that I look at growth and risk? It's changed a lot because whenever I first started, I really didn't always know exactly what I was just talking about, where how much these things cost me, how much did this have, what was overhead cost, what was operating cost, blah, blah, blah. But once you kind of understand what your true monthly numbers are, what your true quarterly numbers are, where you want to grow to, how much am I bringing in versus how much am I putting out, it allows you to have a better understanding of what actually things cost, right? I used to have this coach in business used to say, we need to not only make money, but we have to track money, right? Where is it coming from and how am I getting it? How much am I paying for every dollar, right? Now, every single industry is different. So if you're selling product, it's obviously a little bit easier to track because you actually know what your operating expenses are, what your client acquisition costs are, so on and so forth. An industry like real estate, it's a little bit trickier to track, but we do it very well, I think, in-house when it comes to actually what it costs for us to operate the business. But the biggest thing I can tell you is if you're a young entrepreneur, if you want to go into business for yourself, if you're in management of any way, definitely dive into financial literacy because you have to have that in order to be successful or you will truly never make it. That's a great question, though. Here from Nashville, love the podcast. Thank you for that. What's one financial insight or habit you wish you had learned much earlier in your leadership journey? I think I would say habit that I wish I learned more, or I guess sooner in my journey, would be just how do you like to have empathy for people, right? I mean, I've always had it, but when you're in leadership, empathy and being able to listen is a really, really important thing. Because most people are looking to you, like we always talk about on the show, they're looking to us to right the ship. They're looking for us for direction, but they're also looking for us to care about them, right? And we all care, right? I'm not saying that I'd never cared before, but I think just being able to put myself inside of their shoes for 2 seconds and say, okay, why are they bringing this to me, right? What are they wanting me to do with this information? I think being able to kind of being in leadership for over 10 years now and operating a fairly large brokerage, I have to have a lot of empathy for a lot of people. But I think it allows me to relate with them. It allows me to understand what they're going through. It reminds me, it allows me to understand, the hardships that they're facing, right? But at the same time, I think that's really, really important. And it's really only something you can learn kind of on the go because you can't just like talk to yourself in the mirror and like say bad things or this and that and kind of how like practice how you're going to look at it. But you have to be in leadership, obviously, to be able to get that. So that's a really good question. When you first started your business, how did you stay consistent when results weren't showing? It's a really good question. And it's actually a good question for a lot of young entrepreneurs out there, because if you think you're going to open a business and just get rich quick overnight, it's not going to happen, right? I mean, there's AI, there's tech, there's this and that the one-offs, but 95% of all small businesses take a long time to get up and running, right? And I think for me, what I really focused on the consistent was really trying to understand what I can control that day, what, in my opinion, made that day a great day, right? What made it a great week? What made it a great quarter? What made it a great month? So on and so forth. And you really start to have those goals, right? So many entrepreneurs, open up their business and want to have a 12-month goal accomplished within a month, right? And they set all these unrealistic expectations. They set all this unrealistic, almost stress on them, and it really bites them in the what. So I think when I first started, I really looked at, okay, what can I do on a day-to-day basis that's going to allow me to accomplish this small goal? Okay, how can I leverage this small goal to get to a medium goal? How can I leverage these two goals to get to the large goal? And so I would strongly urge you that if you are early on in business, within a year or two, if you're thinking about opening up a business or whatever it may be, you being consistent is so important, because each and every day you have to come in, you have to care, you have to sell, you have to do all those things. Don't always get so caught up with the result. Our society is a results-based society, right? And so it is very difficult for us to not get caught up in the result. But you have to also understand sometimes the work has to, it has to be built up for a long period of time for you to actually get the result that you want. Very, very rare in life, but definitely in business, do you have something that then leads to a very quick result that you actually wanted, right? It takes a lot of time to build that up. So give yourself some grace and just be consistent on a day-to-day basis. But good question. What did your daily routine look like when you were building momentum? Lots of long hours and lots of no sleep. Because I always tell you guys all the time, like, everybody wants to be, everybody wants to be an entrepreneur, but not everybody wants to really put the hard work and time, energy, and effort that goes into it, right? If you're going to be a business owner, You have to be the one who cares the most about that company. You have to be the one who works the hardest at that company. So my daily routine was I am first one in, last one out, and I am doing everything in my power to show not only my employees, people who I'm trying to recruit, and agents, and doing all these things. I'm trying to show everybody, look how committed he is. But also, it's not just about being busy. It's about being productive in those hours, right? A lot of times whenever you first start a business, you have to get the word out there. How are you marketing yourself or your company? What are you doing on social? What are you doing on all these other platforms to help you grow? So you have to be consistent, but also you have to build your routine and be as consistent as you can to doing those things each and every day. Obviously, it just depends on what industry you're in, what business you're in, so on and so forth, which will really allow you to do those. But good question. Do you rely more on discipline or motivation? That's a good question. I think they kind of go together. I think my motivation allows me to stay disciplined. And because I think you have to have both of those to really have one of those, in my opinion. Like, I think they go in hand where discipline and motivation can kind of go together, because let me be honest, there's days where discipline, you're like, man, I really want to not go in early. I really want to go and I really want to do this. Or maybe you're on a diet and you're like, hey, I really want to have that cheesecake or whatever, right? And mentally, you're willing to break the discipline of not having those things, or maybe not getting up on time or whatever else. But that's where your motivation has to kick in, because your motivation is going to say, no. Remember what we want here? I'm pushing you to stay disciplined. I'm pushing you to go and accomplish this goal. So I think you kind of have to have a little bit of both of discipline and consistency with it, because you can't have one without the other. And so, for me, I think that's really important as you go forward, and really just trying to understand that discipline and motivation go together. But the hard thing in life, but especially in business, is trying to figure out which one you struggle with, right? It's very rare that people can have both. Like, I am a very motivated person, but I sometimes lack in discipline, but my motivation allows that lackingness of discipline to kind of override it, essentially. So you have to have both, but that's a really good question, especially as we get started tonight. But next question, was there a specific moment or time period where consistently started to pay off? Yeah, for sure. So whenever we opened our first company, I think I told this story before, I really wanted to get to 300 million as fast as possible in production. This was back in 2018. And we did that in about 12 to 14 months. And it was a lot of long hours. It was a lot of long days. It was not very many vacations inside those first 12 to 13 months. But it was because we were so consistent each and every day that we really started to see it pay off. Because at least in our industry, in real estate, right? If I bring an agent on, let's say they're a $20 million producer, right? It's going to take me probably 2 to 3 months to start making money on them, right? Because they got to close out their previous deals from other brokerage. They got to get in. They got to get inside the culture. They got to get switched over. They got to start writing deals, so on and so forth. So, real estate's a 30, 60, 90, even sometimes 120-day cycle. So different businesses obviously, can get started quicker. But real estate, we have to obviously get the volume in, but you have to kind of get them into the system for us to be able to go forward there, which is good. What systems or habits helped you stay consistent long-term? I think just accountability, to be honest with you. Holding myself accountable and knowing what I want to accomplish, both personally, like with my fitness and stuff, with my sleep regimen, whatever it may be, but also even in business, right? Being able to hold myself accountable to say, here's the most important 5 things that we have to accomplish this week. And I will tell you, owning your schedule, at least for me, allows me to be as consistent as possible. Because if you don't own your schedule and you're just all over the place and you're letting other people kind of dictate your schedule and this, and that, how can you ever be consistent long-term, right? And I'm talking, I know some people who've taken this and they've planned out their entire year in January. First thing they do is they go and book all their vacations. These are my vacation days, right? Then they go back and they book all the important days with their kids or maybe their family or whatever it may be. And then they start to fine tune that, hey, every Wednesday at 7 is church. I put that on there. So as detailed as you want to be, it's fine. But owning your calendar is really the only true way you can be consistent really in life, but definitely in business. Like in business, it's really, really important that you own your calendar. Don't get me wrong. Like, there's always things that come up, this, and that. And I'm not sure if I've shared this on here or not, but I'm a really big believer in color coding your calendar, where I believe in 3 colors. Number 1, for me, it's red, where it's non-negotiable. Nothing else matters. This is getting accomplished during this time, right? So unless, a death or an emergency or whatever else, like this is getting accomplished in this moment. Number 2 for me is kind of like a medium, is blue. Blue is, hey, this is important, but if I need to move it, I can, right? And then in the kind of the optional one, the third one is yellow for me. That's, hey, I would like to do this, right? I would like to get my hair cut. I would like to go to coffee. I would like to do whatever. But if something comes up that's more important, then I'm going to push that to the next day or next hour or whatever. But what happens is if you've done a digital calendar, right? I'm talking about on an iPhone with Google Calendar, Outlook, whatever it may be. But if you start looking at that, your brain will naturally be programmed that whenever it sees that red or sees that blue, in my case, hey, that's a really important thing that we have to do today. And you kind of set yourself up the night before. You're looking at it. Okay, what do I have to do tomorrow? What time do I have to be there? And you start building this consistency, right, of being able to start to look at your days in advance, because hopefully the more successful you're becoming, right, I can guarantee you the one thing that's going to come less for you is time. We only have so much time in the day. So being able to master your calendar is a true skill that I think is really, really important from there as we go forward. But good question. Let's go here. What's something about success that requires more discipline than people expect? For me, it's simple. I have a couple of different questions in that people wrote in from YouTube as well. It's staying successful. I was actually going to share this as a different question that came in from Ty from YouTube, but I'm a huge believer, and I think I've talked about on this channel before, that success does 2 things to you, right? I'm a big believer in this. Success will either make you strive for more success because you're addicted to the feeling of becoming successful and being successful and the life it provides and whatever else. Or 2, it'll make you complacent because you've already achieved success, so why am I working as hard as I work, right? And for me, I tell people all the time, probably my biggest life worry, business-wise, is becoming complacent, because I really believe that complacency can do a lot of harm to people if you let it, right? Mentally, emotionally, physically even. So the hardest thing that I think about success, and something that requires discipline, right, is continuing to do the small things whenever you think the large things are more important, right? So continuing to do the small things each and every day that got you to that point still have to be done. That's the consistency part of success, right? Even still to this day, we still have 4 or 5 non-negotiables, daily activities that we do as a brokerage, where not necessarily I'm doing them anymore, but we've created the systems in place where those shop managers every single morning are going to go through their list and say, do we have water? Yes or no? Do we have toilet paper? Do we have this? Do we have paper? That way the shop is going to be open and ready for everybody to come in, right? Now, whenever I was just one office and it was just me, I did those things, right? But obviously with growth, you're able to kind of offset that by building systems. But you have to be consistent inside of the work each and every day, or success will make you complacent. And I really believe that I think that in business, complacency is the worst thing you can do. And worst thing you can ever kind of have, because it's your motivation goes, your discipline goes, your consistency goes. So many things that how could you ever stay consistent and want to be successful if you're not striving for anything anymore, right? So don't let that happen to you. It's a big thing. What separates people who say they want it versus those who actually follow through? It's funny we asked that because I think consistency. That's been a big track tonight, right? Because everybody wants to be successful in one way, shape, or form, right? It's either going to be at work, it's going to be in life, it's going to be getting that promotion, it's going to be starting your own company, or whatever it may be, right? Everybody has their own goals and aspirations. Some people's, are very, very high. Some people are medium. Some people are just good with getting by, right? But it's the true consistency in a daily activities that really separates people who want those goals versus those who are going to go out and achieve those goals. Because true achievers, right, are never complacent. They're never just saying, you know what, I've already accomplished this, I'm done, right? No, they're the ones who are always pushing. They're always being, consistent in their routines to go and do those things. So I would strongly urge you guys that, like, if you're a young entrepreneur, if you're a young sales manager, if maybe you're not in a management role yet, but you want to be, I can assure you the differences between like people who actually want to do it versus people who think they want to do it is showing up consistent every single day with the right mindset of, hey, I'm going to go and accomplish this to the best of my ability. You're always going to make mistakes, right? In life, but definitely in business. And as a boss, like I can look over mistakes as long as you are trying and working hard, right? Now, if we make the same mistakes, we got to start figuring out why, right? And that's where the consistency comes in. But making a mistake should never, be on your radar. It's fine to make those, but also you should be asking questions to those around you where you hopefully don't have to have that. But good question there. I want to go to a couple of the write-in questions here. Some of these are from either YouTube or comments on YouTube Shorts, whatever else. Number one, a big question that came in, where do you think most people waste their time in business? I wanted to get to this one because, I know we have a lot of business leaders on the call. I know we have people who are in business. Obviously, maybe you're in management, maybe you're a lead or growing into management. And, people waste their time all the time. I actually just talked about this today to one of our admins. Like, there's actually studies that are done. If you ask people like to do something, right? And like, oh, I'm too busy. I'm too busy, right? And it's always those people, right? We know who they are. There's actually studies that show that if you work an 8-hour workday, you are actually doing more than likely, I think it's a 65% chance you're doing less than 5 hours of actual work. And so there's trackers. You can go on there. You can actually, you can go to ChatGPT. You can go online. You can Google it. Time trackers where either every 15 minutes, every 30 minutes, every 45 minutes, or every 60 minutes, you can actually write down the activity that you did during that time frame and actually look over your 8 hours of workday. I would be shocked if you have more than 5 hours of actually doing stuff. Because the worst thing, and that's why I want to get to this question, the worst thing you can do in business is waste time on social media scrolling or going through your email of junk or hanging out with your office staff or whatever it could be, right? Which all of those things, sure, in moderation, but there's an activity that I stress you guys, for every 1 hour worked, okay, give yourself 15 minutes of free time. And you can build it into your calendar. You can build it into your daily routine. So that, because instead of you searching for that time or making that time, it's already allotted and you already have it in your calendar. So I think the number one thing people like just waste time on is pretending they're busy, right? I mean, we're all products of that. Like sometimes I'll be sitting at my desk and I have 5 things to do and I'm like, let me just go to Instagram instead right now, just for a second, right? And, we're all product of it. I get it. But I really urge you guys, if you think that you're somebody who's too busy, oh, I'm too busy to do this, I'm too busy to take that next role, I'm too busy to go and ask for help, I'm too busy, whatever. Track your time. I dare you, because I guarantee you're not as busy as you think you are. And everybody has the ability to be available at some point in time. But that was a really good question I want to get to. Next one I want to get to from YouTube is, how do you keep showing up when you don't feel like it? And I wanted to get to this because, this is kind of a product of like our society today, right? A little bit. It's kind of hard to find like hard workers. It's kind of hard to find a little bit of like the savages out there that they used to be. Dana White talks about it all the time. But, for me, it's like, how do you show up when you still don't feel like it? Simple answer is because you have to, right? And there's so many people who have this kind of like poor me and, I'm tired today, or, I worked a double last night or whatever else. Get over it, right? I mean, there's no one else. There's no little violins that's playing. Nobody really gives a shit, right? If you're up and tired or doing this and doing that. It's a results-based industry. It's a result-based world. That's what we just talked about a little bit ago, right? So how you keep showing up when you don't feel like it is because you don't have a choice, right? And I think it's really important that if we're truly looking to be successful, right, which everybody wants to be in their own way, we talked about that, right? There's going to be days you don't want to work. There's going to be days you don't want to deal with your boss. There's going to be days that you don't want to do X, Y, or Z or whatever you're supposed to be doing. But guess what? The days that you don't want to are the days that you should be doubling down on those things. Because if you can put that in to build that consistency, where we talked about that a lot tonight, your opposition or your competition or whoever you're going against or whatever, they're going to feel sorry for themselves at one point in time throughout the year, and they're going to take that day off. They're going to do those things that you, whatever, right? And that's where you start to take the next step in the ladder. That's where you take advantage of them taking time off. But I love this question, because it's like, how do you keep showing when you don't feel like it? It's like, what other choice do we have, right? I mean, you have to work hard. There is no, I mean, who cares if you're tired? Who cares if you don't want to do something? We don't have a choice, right? And it's sad sometimes in today's society, especially like kids coming out of college right now or whatever, like the rise of technology and the rise of AI have given these kids like almost the ability to think like, oh, I don't have to do those things anymore. Oh, I don't have to start at the bottom of the totem pole of this company anymore. It's like, no. You still do. You still do, right? That you still have to. You just may not think that you do, right? So I got this question, and it almost like puzzled me. But it's at the same time, like that's a product of our environment today, where it's, I don't want to show up, so why would I? It's like, because you don't have a choice, right? Life is expensive. Things are expensive. We all have bills. We have all these things. And guess what? Nobody gives a shit if you're tired, right? And I think we all kind of have to look in the mirror and say, not every day is going to be great, but at the same time, why can't we make it great? We're not always going to be in a great mood, but can we make our moods good enough to get me through the day to be still successful for that moment? So I got that question, and I definitely wanted to get to it tonight because it was so important, which kind of led me to the next one, to be honest with you. What does confidence really come from in your experience? So I thought this was a good one because, everybody wants confidence, right? Especially if you're in sales, confidence leads to sales. It's very important, right? Especially if you're in management, you have to have confidence in what you're telling your team, what you're telling this person, whatever it could be. But I think for me, confidence comes from success, right? And knowing your product, knowing the situations, knowing how you're going to handle things before they even come available or come up. And it goes all through experience, right? I think experience and previous success can lead to confidence in whatever you're doing, right? So if you're in sales, you're confident because your product knowledge is so high, right? You already know what that person's going to have the objections about your product before they even ask it, because you've already faced that previous experience, right? Same thing in leadership, right? My confidence should come from being that we've already done the things that we're trying to do on a great level. So yes, things will always come up. Obstacles will always come up. Questions will always come up, right? But we've had the past experience to say, hey, last year we did this and we overcame it because we did this, right? And so I think that's really important as we go forward, because confidence is something that I think you kind of have to have within you a little bit, right? But also it comes from, like I said, experience and past success, because if you have those things, then it allows you to be confident about what you're trying to tell someone to do or whatever it could be. So that's a really, really important thing, especially as we kind of go forward here. These are really good questions. I have a few more I want to get to in a little bit, but let's go back into the chat. Have you ever fallen off track in your business? If so, did you reset quickly? Yeah, for sure. And I've talked about it a little bit at length on here, but really, back in middle of 2024, definitely beginning of 2025, like I felt absolutely plateaued with Engel & Volkers, our previous brokerage. And I just felt like, what are we working for, right? What are we working towards, right? We've already achieved so much. I remember my mom used to ask me every year, what's your goals this year? And I think in 2024, I said, I don't know, I don't have any, which is shocking if you guys know who I am and everything else. And I think it probably shocked her, to be honest with you, but it's because I felt like, what are we working towards? I couldn't grow in new markets and new territory. They weren't really helping me recruit and retain and do anything else I actually needed. And we've already achieved so much success. It's like, if I can't grow anymore, what are we working towards? And to be honest with you, that was one of the biggest reasons why we transitioned over to Christie's, is because I felt we've already accomplished everything we could and more at this previous company. We've already been number one in the world. We've already won the biggest awards. We've already done all of these things. So what more is there to accomplish, right? They were not giving me any more room. And so that's when we transferred to Christie's. And for me, it's been such a breath of fresh air and being able to do so much more. But also, it's also brought its own challenges because we've had to, we were with Engel Volkers almost 8 years. And, I knew the program, I knew the people, I knew all that stuff. But having to learn something new after 8 years and being able to switch everything pretty much in the middle of the night, like it was a big adjustment, and it still is, it still is. But it also creates kind of like a little bit of competition inside myself where it's like, hey, can we go and really do this? Can we continue to grow? Can we do all these things? And sometimes in life, we need that reset, right? So I wouldn't say it's necessarily a falling off of your business, but it's definitely a reset. And some of you guys who are in this call right now are probably at jobs that you're not thrilled with. You're probably at jobs where you feel plateaued. You're probably at jobs where you're maybe not being appreciated as you should be when it comes to pay or whatever else. And we've talked about being quick pivoters on this channel a lot, right? And so some of you may need to look at this and say, am I being fulfilled here? Am I being used to my most ability? But also, what am I growing towards, right? Do I have ownership who believes in me? Do I have a manager who believes in me? Do I have all the things I need to do to have to be able to go and achieve the goals that I want to have? And if the answer is no, then sometimes we have to quick pivot and sometimes we have to reset, right? Because I could have stayed at Engel Volkers for the rest of my career, right? And could we have still grown and done this and done that? Maybe, hypothetically, but I felt we had run its course. And sometimes in life, things run their course, especially professionally and in business, right? So sometimes we have to take that leap of faith. We have to take that next step, or we just have to look around and say, this is not really what I want to do anymore. Let's push the reset button. Let's look at other options we have. Let's go to the pivot. Let's look and see what we have. One of my close friends talks to me about, life is all about perspective, right? So whenever you're boxing, you have your pivot foot, right? Sometimes in life, we have to use that pivot foot, right? Both personal and in business, right? Because we have to be able to pivot through hard times, but we also have to pivot when times are even what we believe are good, but maybe another opportunities out there. So it's not that we fell down in our business, but we definitely learned very quickly that we needed a reset, right? We needed time. We needed stuff to work for, right? And I think that was really important. Let's go back in here. What does it really take to win that most people are not willing to do? Sacrifice. That's an easy answer, right? You guys have heard me talk about sacrifice so much on the channel, so much on the YouTube videos and vlogs and everything. You have to sacrifice to truly be successful in the world and to win, right? And sacrifice could be hours, it could be pay, it could be family time, it could be not having time off. I mean, there's so many different things of what sacrifice means. I mean, it can mean 10 different things to 10 different people, right? Obviously, I don't have kids yet. So obviously, it's a lot easier for me to work nights and weekends and do those type of things because I don't have that, right? So for me, it's not a sacrifice to come on this live stream at 7 o'clock at night. But for some of you, maybe you have kids, maybe they go to bed at 7. So for you to be able to do this hypothetically, that would be a sacrifice for you. Seems like thing in life, but also professionally. So if you're truly wanting to win, right? If you're truly wanting to be successful, you have to sacrifice something, right? And we've talked about that a lot. But really good question there. What would you do differently if you were scaling into a new field today? It's a good question. I mean, today, depending on what the field was, I would look and see, hey, how can I scale this as fast as possible using AI? Right? AI is changing so fast. We've talked about AI at length on this channel a little bit. And, depending on what industry it was, there's AI bots out there who are replacing human beings, right? From receptionists to cold callers to email responses. It's really crazy what AI is actually being able to do. And so depending on the industry that I was actually trying to get into, I would lean heavily into learning about AI. What can I do with AI? How can I, grow into that business, but also how can I use that to scale as fast as possible? So especially if I was in a customer or a product business, if I was selling t-shirts or hats or a lifestyle or something like that, I wouldn't even want a staff. I would just have AI bots built for me that be able to accomplish all these things, where like a lead comes in, it goes automatically into the CRM, goes automatically into here, goes automatically into this, goes automatically into that. And it happens within seconds. It's truly fascinating. And so, I don't know if some of you guys are looking into different fields, or some of you guys are looking into things that you want to start studying, whatever else. Obviously, AI is such a taboo topic these days, but there's so much you can do with it. And really, like the way someone explained to me AI the other day is, if you think you can do it, it can be done, or it's already being done, which is kind of terrifying if we're really thinking about it. But I mean, we are trying to integrate AI as much as possible into our industry, and obviously into our brokerage as much as possible. And I would strongly urge you guys that if you are looking to scale and do those things, like AI is a way that you can really get there. But I want to go back into some of the questions that came in. A good one that came in was, what's one hard truth about success people don't talk about? And, I wanted to get to this question because we're a success podcast. We're a success channel. We're always talking about success, blah, 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 blah. But we actually don't talk all the time about what the other side of success is, right? And usually to be successful, we just talked about it, is the sacrifice, right? Are you truly willing to sacrifice the time away from your family, the time, the money, or the travel, whatever it is, to keep success or to achieve success is one thing, but are you willing to continuously sacrifice for long-term success? Because people always think, hey, if I achieve these goals, then I'm good. I'm good. It's like, no. You may be good in that moment, but if you don't consistently sacrifice, consistently build systems, consistently do all the right things on a daily basis, then guess what? You're going to wake up one day and you're not successful anymore, or you have a competitor who leapfrogged you, or whatever, right? Because it's really, really important that we understand that success is hard. Success is really hard, but maintaining success is even harder. Because like I just talked about, most people, whenever they get success in some way, shape, or form, they get complacent. They start feeling happy for themselves. They start, I can take that day off. I can take that vacation. I don't have to answer that phone call. I'll get to that tomorrow. All of that is complacency, right? You just don't realize it in the moment. And truly successful people, like I'm talking truly successful people, their worst fear will be complacency, because they know that the second it comes in, it's almost kind of like a thief in the night. You don't even know it hits you. It just does, right? You kind of wake up that morning and you're a little bit lazier than usual. Maybe you break your routine. Maybe you get to the office a little bit later. Next thing you know, you're doing it all week. Next thing you know, you're doing it all month. Next thing you know, you're losing sales. It's like, whoa, what happened? It's like it starts so small, and it's an avalanche effect, as I always call it, where it starts out really small, and next thing you know, you blink, it's huge. And it's really, really hard to stop. So for me, that's the hard truth about success people don't always get. So what I always tell people when people are asking me, like, how do I go and achieve this? How do I do this? And I'm doing these coaching calls and those things. It's like, what are you willing to sacrifice? Because that's the biggest thing. Like, what are you willing to truly sacrifice? Not only to achieve that goal, but to remain there, to stay on top, to stay in number one in your office, or number one in your territory, or whatever it could be, right? You need a little bit of luck. Don't get me wrong, especially in sales, we definitely need luck, but it's a lot of sacrifice, which I think is really, really important. John Javicki, I'm going to come back to your question in a few seconds, or at the end here, about the heartwarming story. I'll definitely get to that, I promise. Next question: Can you teach motivation? What is the difference between having confidence and being motivated? I think in a way you can teach motivation, but the person that you're teaching it to has to have some knowledge of what motivation is, but also be receptive to it. So I used to have a coach in college who was a screamer, right? And he's in your face, he's intense, he's screaming at you. There's some people that's not motivating to them. That is like, you know what? F you, get out of my face, right? Don't talk to me that way. But to some people, we're super motivated by it. And that's where I'm saying that a good teacher and a good coach and also a good leader can motivate 10 different people 10 different ways. So in that way, I do think motivation is teachable if the person can understand why you're willing to teach them and what you're willing to teach them. But the difference between having confidence and being motivated, confidence is the knowledge and absolute certainty in your mind that you're going to go and accomplish the goal. I'm going to go and do this. I know my product. I know what we're going to do. I know, right? Confidence comes from knowledge, in my opinion. Motivation comes from what do you want to achieve, right? So you might be motivated, like you might have confidence in one source, but then be motivated somewhere else based off two totally different things. So I think the biggest difference is I may be motivated to go to the gym, right? So that I can have confidence in the way that I'm going to look. I might be motivated to go out and make these sales because I have the confidence to go out and do those things. So I think there's big differences, but they also have to come together at some point in time, which I think is really, really important. One of the other questions I want to get to tonight from that was a type in from our YouTube channel is, what's the difference between managing people and leading people? And this is a great one because leading people, like you guys are hearing me always say, leaders lead from the front and the back of the room, right? Not only are we at the forefront, we're walking in the direction we're going. We're telling everybody this is the mission, this is what we're going to achieve, this is what we want to achieve. But we're also in the back of the room supporting them, pushing them. Hey, what do you need from us, right? I'm listening to you as your leader of what you need. Managing people, sometimes just like, I think of a managing person is just like clocking a paycheck. Like, oh, I'm just here. Just, if you have questions, come to me, right? I'm really not leading. I'm really not at the forefront. I'm really not sharing the mission. I'm just here. If you have questions or if you run into something that you need help with, I'm here for you, right? I'm your manager. But there's a big difference between leading people and then just managing them, right? Managing them is, hey, I don't want to get you in trouble. I'm gonna teach you what not to do. Leading is we're gonna go and we're gonna achieve these things together based off of what our vision is, based off our confidence, all of these things. So, if you are a manager, if you are an owner, if you are an entrepreneur, if you are whatever, really lean into leading your people, not just managing your people, right? Yes, they know they can come to you if they have a problem. Yes, they know they can come to you if you have a question or if they have a question. But are you really shouting your mission? Are you really leading them through the hard times? Can they look to you whenever things are going terribly wrong and know that you have their back? That is what the difference between leading people and managing people is, in my opinion. So that's a really good question I wanted to get to tonight. Next question in the chat. If you had to describe your version of success using a movie title, what would it be? I don't know necessarily about a movie title. I don't know. That's a really good question. I'll have to come back to that one maybe next week or in 2 weeks when we come back to that. I'm not sure about a moving title, but I would say the thing about success, right? And this is where I think probably the movie title thing can go in, but success means 10 different things to 10 different people, right? Success to some people is I woke up this morning, right? Let's just be honest. I have a bed to sleep in. I have money to buy food. Success to other people is, hey, I made that really big sale, right? Or, hey, I got my dream car because I was able to get a big bonus because of what I did last year or whatever, right? And that's why success really is just a matter of what you truly believe is successful for you, right? Because my definition of success has changed dramatically in the last 5 years compared to what it was, when I first started. And we talked about that obviously before. So it's a really good question, but I think, it just depends on obviously where you're at in your success journey, because if you're just getting started, you might not have hit success yet, right? And that's okay. Success to you, but I can guarantee you that each and every one of us, something today that you accomplished was successful. I promise you that. It could be as little as, I didn't yell at anyone today, right? When I was driving in the car, I was on time to my appointments. I showed up dressed and ready to be presented, right? Whatever it could be, sometimes as humans, we're so hard on ourselves that we actually overlook a lot of things that we have accomplished and that has made us successful from there. So that's a good question. I want to get back to this because I wanted to spend some time on it tonight. John says, Corey, you shared a heartwarming story on your social media about the stranger that you met that looked like your dad. Tell us how that has affected you positively, both personally and professionally. Yeah, it's had a huge effect on me. I'll be honest with you. It's actually still kind of hard for me to articulate a little bit. For those of you guys who don't know, last Tuesday night I was out to dinner at a restaurant I never go to. I sat at the bar to watch the WBC game, baseball game, which I never do, and I saw a guy that looked exactly like my father. And if you guys don't know, my father passed away in June of last year, and it was beyond surreal. And we had a moment where I actually approached him and asked him if I could take a picture with him. And I was crying the whole time. It was very emotional, and he was such a nice guy. At one point in time when I was talking to him, he actually gave me the biggest hug and said, everything is going to be okay. And what's crazy about that whole story, and a lot of people don't know this, is, obviously if you guys have ever lost a parent or lost somebody that you believed was kind of like looked up to as a parent, you kind of have this little bit of a void in your life, right? And you kind of start to struggle to have, like I've been really struggling with not having a father figure in my life at hard times, like I was into, the last few months, and not being able to turn to a father figure or a grandfather figure or whatever. And so seeing him and having that moment with him was really, really surreal. And I will tell you, a lot of you guys have been following me for a long time on social media. A lot of you guys are close friends of mine. It has, I've been on this absolute God first journey for the last three to 4 months, and really living an inside out life and being God first and really focusing on my faith. I truly believe that last Tuesday night meeting, his name is Jeff, was truly a God thing. Now that I've kind of researched it a little bit, it's actually called a God wink, which I think is really funny. But it was such a crazy experience. And personally, it's touched my heart probably forever because, you were able to have that moment, and there's literally no other explanation other than that was God. And so it's touched me personally forever because now I have that moment, and it was exactly what I needed to hear in the moment, with everything is going to be okay, with all the chaos I have going on in my life, personal, professionally, whatever it could be. But professionally, I think it's also changed me dramatically because now it just puts things into perspective so much. Like whenever something like that happens, anytime you lose a loved one, it's obviously very difficult to go through, and you have to get back to work and you have to stay focused and all of this. But when situations like that where you literally think that you see the person that passed because they look exactly like it, he even sounded like him, even his jokes were the same, even his mannerisms were the same as my father. It was crazy. And it just has put a whole different perspective on my life of what's truly important, I think, and what I want to be remembered by, what I want my team to think of me as. It's changed so much. And so it's been a really surreal week. It's crazy that it's already been a week. It was literally a week ago last week. And I would have never met him if I didn't change the filming or the live to this every other week, because I was doing every week for a while, you know what I'm saying? So all these things where all these like steps of why I was there and how I was there and what I was doing and where did I go and how he was, it was truly, truly, truly a God thing. And so it's changed me forever, both personally and professionally. So I appreciate the question. The support has been truly amazing. I think I've had like 400 people reach out to me on text or comments or messages or whatever it could be. And the coolest thing is really hearing other people who have lost significant others or brothers or cousins or kids about their experience going through that exact same thing. Or maybe they saw their person at a supermarket or a restaurant or whatever. And so, sharing that moment kind of with them, because if you've never been through it, it's hard to explain. I'll be honest. Like it's very, very difficult to put into words what you're truly feeling in that moment, because your mind is telling you, hey, that's my dad in my case. But your heart is telling you, no, Corey, he's passed. That's not him. And you almost kind of start like, okay, am I hallucinating? How is it not, right? And so it's very surreal. And if you've never been through a moment like that, it's hard probably for you to really understand the true gravity to it. but it's definitely something that in a moment that I will cherish forever and I will always keep with me. And so I appreciate the question. I appreciate, obviously, everybody who's reached out with a tremendous support. And I appreciate, his name is Jeff. I appreciate Jeff in that moment because he could have been an asshole. He could have been, no, get away from me. I mean, I literally walked up to him as a complete stranger, crying my eyes out. And the only thing I could say to him is, you look just like my dad. And it was crazy. It was very crazy. And so it's been a crazy week just trying to build off of it. And what is it like? And what did it mean? And why me? And all of these thoughts. But it was really, really cool. It was really cool. And so I appreciate the question. And with that, we'll go ahead and end tonight. Thank you guys so much for being on the live stream with me tonight. We're going to be back in 2 weeks on Tuesday night from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern directly on this channel. If you are new here tonight, before you leave, go ahead and click that subscribe button so that you guys can stay up to speed on everything we have coming. But have a fantastic rest of your week, and I will see you guys